Welcome to day 4 of the Kickstart Your Business Challenge. I'm very excited to have you. This is our first session today. Later, we have another session with Jen Vasquez, who will be talking to us about Pinterest. You do not want to miss that. It's going to be phenomenal. I love Pinterest for my business, but that's not what we're talking about today. Right now, well, we are talking about it today, later, but right now we are talking about streamlining your workflows. You might be thinking, what even is a workflow? I don't even know what you're talking about. Or maybe you're like, why is that important for this stage of my business? I'm just starting out. Well, we will get there. Before we do that, I want to invite you to download the workbook for today. There are going to be some questions that I'm going to ask you. There's going to be some space for you to brainstorm, to actually write out your workflow. We're going to actually map out your booking workflow and your project workflow today because it's very important, something that we should have. So you can get that at christyjohnsoncreative.com/kickstart resources. That's christyjohnsoncreative.com/kickstart resources. Head over there and we will get you all set up for today's lesson. Okay. So we're going to talk about workflows. A workflow is simply the series of steps that you take to complete your client's project from start to finish. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but isn't this something that we do like later in our business when we are making lots of money, getting lots of clients? That's when we kind of think about like workflows and automation and processes and all that stuff. No, we need to think about this from day one. If you have a streamlined workflow, it's going to save you time, help you enjoy your work more. It's going to make you look more professional to your clients. And it's going to set you up to grow your business because we don't want to put these building blocks in place later and kind of reverse engineer. We want to be ready to go so that when the growth happens, we're going to be talking more about growth in the second session of today on Pinterest. But when the growth happens, you are ready to support that with a streamlined workflow. So we're going to talk about your workflow. When you first start out in business, a lot of times what happens is you have things all over the place. You are communicating with clients, maybe in social media, maybe you are communicating in person and someone says, hey, I want to work with you. What's the process? And maybe you don't even really know the process. Maybe you just say, yeah, let's get together. Let's have a meeting and talk about it. Or maybe you say, yeah, just send me an email and I'll send you some information. Or maybe you say, cool, let's hop on a call. Let's talk it through. And you may be communicating with people in different avenues. You may be talking on Facebook. Maybe you're talking on Instagram. Maybe you're talking, in person and that type of thing. So it's really, really important for you to have this streamlined so that when you have those conversations, you have one simple place to direct people and you have your process clearly mapped out so that you know exactly what's happening. They know exactly what's happening. When you don't have a streamlined process, it can lead to a lot of big problems. You can end up not remembering what you've sent to each client. You might have to search your email, search your DM, search your text messages. It can get really, really confusing. And you might even forget a really important process along the way. I've done this before as a wedding photographer. Sometimes I get to like 2 weeks before the wedding. This was years ago. And I'd be like, oh no, I forgot to get this information. And then I kind of am scrambling and I'm trying to like make it seem like I wanted to do this at this time of the process when really it's something that I should have done 3 months ago. But now I never have that problem because I have my process clearly mapped out and I go through all the steps for every single client. So what's the solution? The solution is having a written out streamlined workflow so that you know the exact step to take when someone inquires. So we're going to talk about the entire process. We're going to talk about the booking workflow and the project workflow. But before you do that, if you have your workbook, the first step is to just brainstorm everything from the client inquiry process to delivering their final project. I want you to just kind of brainstorm. So a basic workflow would be a client fills out an inquiry on your site. Then you send them information about your services in a more in-depth questionnaire. Then they fill out the questionnaire. Then you prepare a quote. Then they agree to the quote and make the payment. Then you begin working on the project. Once you've completed the project, you deliver the project. Then you might ask for the feedback from your client, and then they share the feedback with you. So I want you to think about all the steps. This is, thinking about what do you need from the client to complete the work for them? What do They need to know from you about the process. Can you communicate anything about your process more clearly to them? So that would be your prices, a description of what the process is going to look like. I like to actually tell them, this is what we're going to do. You fill out this questionnaire, then I'll prepare you a quote. You'll sign the contract, then we'll get to work on planning your project. After we have the planning stage complete, I'll move into completing this for you, and you can expect this to be delivered by whatever date. So sometimes people book things with me as an OBM that have multiple calls. So I'll say we'll have 3 calls throughout the process. One will be initial planning call. The second one will have one to answer any questions. And then the last one will be a final walkthrough call. And I tell them, what the process is, because they like to be informed. So I want you to think about everything. So what do you actually do to work with your client, and what would be an ideal process? Kind of brainstorm everything. So this is going to be your homework. You're going to fill out page number 5 of the workbook that has what's your workflow, map it out below. I've left this page blank so that if you want to draw, you can do that and go from there. Okay, so then once you have a general map of the workflow, we're going to move in specifically into your booking workflow. It's one of the most important parts of the process because it's how you get information from your leads to determine if they're a good fit to work with. It's how you share information about your services so they can determine if they want to hire you. So I suggest having a questionnaire on your website, a contact form that's going to get what you need to know from them. And I recommend sending them 2 questionnaires. So first is the contact form on your website. That's the first touch point. That is going to be just where they give you some basic contact information. You don't want to have a big barrier to entry for this. Keep the barrier to entry low. You don't want to confuse them or overwhelm them. If it's too confusing, like if you have too many questions on the first questionnaire on your website, they're going to get overwhelmed and they're probably not going to work with you. So you just have a basic contact form. Then you want to send them an email. And this first email is very, very important. Here you want to express excitement that they're working with you. Then you want to communicate your process and your prices very clearly. Okay. And then I also like to send a questionnaire at this time, a more in-depth questionnaire that's going to get all the information that I need to know about their project and or prepare their quote for them. So here, if you need specific help with this, I actually have templates that you can use as part of my Build Your Business cohort, which I'm actually going to be talking to you about tomorrow, but just a little sneak peek, you get inquiry response templates and templates for a lot of parts of the process when you join the Build Your Business cohort. So again, you want to make this first email really, really important. And then this questionnaire. So let's talk about this questionnaire that you're going to send. So when I'm working with my OBM clients, I ask them to describe the problem that they're having, describe what they want to accomplish together, and I ask them some specific questions to make sure that I know exactly what they need and which package to quote them. For my photo editing clients, I would ask them questions like, how many weddings do you typically have in a year? And how many of those do you plan to outsource? When are your busy seasons? How many weddings do you have a month in your busy season? How many portrait sessions do you have a week during your busy season? How many sessions do you have a week during your slow season? This is so that I can determine, do I have enough bandwidth to support this? And by having it very streamlined and all at the beginning, it's going to save both of us a lot of time, because we're not going to get in depth into the project and then realize, oh, wait, I can't actually do this. It's going to get everything out on the table. You can send this through Google Forms. That's free and easy. Or if you have a CRM system, a customer relationship management software, you can send it through there. And that's my preferred method. But when you're just starting out, you may not have the finances for a CRM, and that's okay. So you can send it through Calendly. Now, for some of you, you may just be ready for them to book a call with you. So maybe instead of preparing a quote, maybe you want first to get on the phone with them or to have a Zoom meeting with them. So maybe instead of sending that questionnaire, maybe you say, here's your next step, book a 15-minute discovery call with me. You can use a program like Calendly, and with Calendly, you can also ask them questions. So this is where you're going to kind of get that information that you need to know. So you need to know what information you need to know from them. So that's what you're going to map out in the workbook. Okay. So So also maybe your step is not a free call. Maybe it's they actually book a call. You can do this with something like Calendly or a CRM. And again, you can ask questions that you need to know to prepare for the call. So you need to think about if they're booking a call with you or booking a service that costs money, what do you need to know in order to do your job efficiently? Make sure you do that as part of them signing up for that so that it's streamlined, so that you have it, so you don't have to go back and say, wait, I need this information. Or you don't have to go back and say, oh, by the way, let's do this. And you don't have to waste your time at the beginning of your call getting all of this qualifying information that you could have got in a questionnaire. Okay, so it's going to save you time. So you have to establish what your next touch point will be. So they inquire, you send them an email, and you decide what is that next touch point. Is it going to be you prepare them a quote? Is it going to be they sign up for a free consultation? Is it going to be they sign up for a paid service just right away? So the important thing though is that you always funnel all of your leads through the contact form on your website and through this next step of getting more information from them. So whenever you're having conversations in DMs or you're having conversations in person, you can say, amazing, let's chat, head over to xyzwebsite.com and we'll get started. You don't want to keep conversations too long in the DMs, because then that's where you can start to lose information and you're going to have to be like, wait, what did I say to them? I'm not exactly sure. So just really quickly say, hey, fill out this. So ask them some qualifying information so that you can keep that organized. So once you've downloaded the workbook, after you have mapped out the general part of your workflow, so just from start to finish, you're going to go more in depth into your booking workflow, and I have space for you to do that on the worksheet on page 7. After you've written out your booking workflow, then you're going to write out your project workflow. So this is what steps do you need to take to fulfill your end of the project. You might think it's simple, but really there are probably more steps than you might realize. And that's why it's really important to write it out. So here's a basic workflow for a photography location. So they've already booked, that's their booking workflow. But the next step is going to be, we need to agree on a date and time. I need to send over some location ideas to them, because a lot of times they don't have a location, or they may just have a vision in mind, and I like to send them location ideas. So we have an email that we send them with location ideas. Then they pick their location. Then I'm going to share, great, let's meet up at this spot. You can park here. Here is the parking information. I've looked up the sunset time, so I know what time we're going to start. So I say, let's meet here at this time, and here's the parking information that you need to know. Then as we're preparing for our session, I'm going to send them some information about what to wear to their session. That's really going to help them. And then when the date approaches, I'm going to check the weather and communicate a rain plan if needed. Then I'm going to need to prepare my gear for the session. So like if you're a makeup artist, maybe you need to buy more of your products or something like that. If you're a graphic designer, this might be a little bit different. So you need to think about what it is for your specific project. Like maybe you have to create some sketches. Maybe you need to compile some colors together. Maybe, there's a little bit more to the process than just make the logo. Like maybe you do a sketch and then you ink it or whatever that looks like. I don't know. I'm not a graphic designer. So then I need to send a reminder to the client. I need to then have the session. After we have the session, I like to send them an email and say, thank you so much for having the session. I really, really loved it. You can expect your photos in this amount of time. Then I have a process for actually getting the photos done. I have to back up the photos, cull the photos, edit the photos, upload the photos to the online gallery. Then once it's online, uploaded to the gallery, I send them an email with their photos and a link to the gallery. And then I ask them for feedback and ask them to submit a Google review. So a simple thing like having a photo session turned into 16 full steps. So how can we streamline this? We can streamline this by having it clearly mapped out, but also by pre-writing emails so that you can templatize them and only fill in the pieces that are specific to that client. You can do this in something like Google. You can save templates in Google, which is great. So go through, write out your booking workflow. That's your project workflow. That's your next step. Write out everything, all of the steps that you have, and highlight the pieces where you will be communicating information to them. Once you've highlighted those pieces where you'll be communicating that information, you can get to work on typing out that. A lot of times you can do this in your booking workflow too, by having like an FAQ page or having this in your services of like frequently asked questions, because a lot of times we answer a lot of the same questions over and over. They say, How long will it take me to get my photos? Do you include online prints? How long is the session? Blah, 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 all that type of stuff. So I would recommend having that type of stuff in your booking email, your first touch point with them, so that they get all the information that they need to know before they even fill out the questionnaire. Okay. So back to your project workflow. I know I did a little bit of backtracking there, but you're going to write it out. Then you're going to highlight all of the pieces where you need to communicate something to the clients, and you're going to templatize it. So that's where you're going to start writing out those emails so that you don't have to rewrite them every single time. It's going to save you so much time. You can put them in Gmail templates. You can keep them in a Google Doc, or if you have a CRM, you can load them up in your CRM, which is going to be really, really helpful. And sometimes they'll be able to send emails automatically. Like if you have some emails that you don't need to customize, you can just send them automatically. For example, preparing for your engagement session and what to wear. I don't need to send them anything specific to them. So that one goes out automatically 2 weeks before their session. I don't even have to think about it with my CRM. By the way, if you want help with your CRM, that is a service that I offer. Let me know and I can help you with it. Okay. So you're going to templatize this. You're going to keep it in a Google Doc or in Gmail templates, or you're going to load it into your CRM. You're also going to take all the steps and you're going to templatize that as well. Again, if you have a CRM, you can do this in your CRM. Or what I like to do is I used to just keep it in Google Keep. I would have all the steps with a checkbox, and then I would just write, wedding workflow or whatever. And then whenever I had a new client, I would duplicate that card or that list in Google Keep. If you use Trello or something like that, it's called a card. I would duplicate it, and then I would type in, Sam and Sarah's wedding checklist. And then I would have that in my Google Keep or in my Trello. And then I would check off the steps as I went. So you're going to templatize it, keep it somewhere, or maybe it's a Google Doc that you copy and then you use it for someone else. So templatize it. You can put these things in a folder in Google Drive. Again, you can have it in Google Keep, whatever works for you. The important thing is that you have it written down so that it saves you time. So when it comes to workflows, you need to know your process. So that's why we're writing it out. You need to communicate it clearly to your clients. That's where these emails are going to come in, really, really come in handy. And you need to have every client go through the same steps. That's why funneling every lead through your website is super important. So when they reach out into your DMs, you can just say, go to my website, fill out this contact form. Or when you're talking to them in person, you can say, awesome, that sounds great. Go to my website and fill out a contact form. Okay. So here is your homework for this session. Your homework is to download the workbook and go through the steps of mapping out your general workflow, basically. Then you're going to dive in and deep dive into your booking workflow and your project workflow. You don't need to write the emails yet. You just need to have a map of your workflows. Okay. That's your homework. I want you to do that before the next session. Our next session is on Pinterest. Pinterest is awesome because you typically funnel people to your website on Pinterest. So you can share about your services on Pinterest and direct people directly to your website. It's so awesome. You'll be gathering leads like crazy. It's going to make your life so much easier to have this process templatized and ready to go and direct people to your websites. If you have any questions, just email me at Christy at christy@christyjohnsoncreative.com. And I want to see your project map, your booking map, your workflow map, your process map. Process map is synonymous with workflow. I want to see that. You can email it to me at christy@christyjohnsoncreative.com. All right. I will see you all in the next session with Jen Vasquez. We'll be talking about Pinterest. I'm very excited. I will see you then. Thanks for watching.